Hey, I wanted to show you Enclave, which is this idea that I've been kind of playing around with over the past few weeks as I've been, I guess, diving into AI and agentic development. So last week, you probably remember I threw this thing out onto the internet called Thinking Script. This is an idea where you take a text file, you run it through Think, and then you have this agent that's just executing this text file and it's writing code for you. One of the kind of concepts for this, though, is that this is running JavaScript inside of a secure sandbox. So the agent can create code and it can call kind of out through secure interfaces so that it can kind of do its thing. And my thinking here is like agents shouldn't always kind of be thinking. They should be given access to a programming language for even basic things so that they can use that where it makes sense. So this is kind of like its own standalone thing, but I wanted to apply this idea to Ruby. And something that I noticed is RubyLLM. If you're not familiar with it, it's a very popular LLM integration, so you can have GPT and all this ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. It calls into the APIs, and this is kind of a nice wrapper here, right? So you can chat, ask, and do all these things. So this is what I noticed. Like most of these executions that I see, if you give an LLM a tool, it's going to like call it to an API and it's going to do these very specific things. But what I wanted to do is I want to give an LLM just a small programming environment. I do want to expose tools inside of it so that it can call those and do things and be useful. So I created this thing called Enclave. And what Enclave is, you create tools for it. So you can see here, we're going to pass a user into these tools. And imagine this being in like a customer service admin panel. Inside of an application, you have somebody who's like, I don't know, a customer service agent. And they just want to do basic things like ask questions. How many tickets does this person have open? Yada, yada, yada. You could expose a tool like this. And you can see we have a user. We serialize the user. And then we can expose this inside of the sandbox. Now you might be wondering, what is the sandbox? And the sandbox is actually MRuby. So if you haven't heard of MRuby, it's a Ruby project. I actually don't know much about the background of it, but you can think of it as an embedded Ruby interpreter, and it's designed to be embedded inside of other languages. So I decided, hey, let's embed MRuby inside of Ruby. Now this has been done before, but it's been done through sub-processes. So I forget the name of the gem, but there's one where you can call out to a different process. It fires up MRuby, and you kind of do your thing inside of there. But I thought, let's just run MRuby in the same process. We'll spin that thing up, and then we can run whatever we want inside of the thing. And the LLM is just running that. So that's what we have here. It's this thing called Enclave. Don't go off and like deploy this to production right away. I actually don't know like how secure the MRuby sandbox is. But I do encourage playing around with this as I have. The thing that I find interesting is, should everything always be run by an agent? No, I don't think so. Like a lot should, especially things that change all the time. But I think, and we're seeing this with Claude Code, like why can't an agent write its own code and then run that? Is that more efficient? Are there advantages to that? And that's what this explores. And it explores it inside of Ruby. So let's actually look at some source code for this. So if you clone this repo, there's an examples directory. And I actually have an example Rails app here that kind of shows like, here's what this thing might look like if you ever did run this thing inside of like a customer service admin panel. So briefly, we have an inline bundler declaration here. So you can see we have Enclave, RubyLLM, Active Record, SQLite. This isn't a full-blown Rails app, obviously. I didn't want to set all that up. It's a console. If you run this, you will need to bring your own Anthropic API key. There's no reason you couldn't plug OpenAI or any other LLM into that. So just to show like the data that we're going to be working with here, we have customers. Customers have orders and support tickets. So we can see our models here, the relationships. We load all that data. So I have some data down below, and we'll get to that at the end of this. We have our customer service tools. So these are the things that we want for our LLM to be able to interact with inside of that Enclave. The serialization here is quite manual, but you can see like we can get customer info, orders, update, list tickets. So this is kind of the interface between your full-blown Rails application and then the MRuby sandbox. So everything is going through here. So you have to serialize it. You can't pass file handlers or full-blown active record objects through there. You can only pass data. And then, of course, on the other side, inside of that enclave, the LLM can play with that data and do things. So you can see here, like, we have create ticket. Maybe we don't want the LLM to create tickets. So we would just delete that and then we run it and it can't work. Same for update. So this is kind of where you control your security. And you could almost think of this as like analogous to a controller where you have inputs coming in. Maybe you don't want to trust them. Maybe you do. This is where you would do that. And then, of course, we have the customer service tool. So this is where RubyLLM comes in. And we can see we have the execute call here. Instead of just like calling out to this API, we're calling out to an enclave. So we're saying, hey, enclave, we're going to run this code inside of this enclave. So if we keep going down here, obviously there's configuration stuff. Here's the model. This is the prompt. So we're saying, hey, do these things with these instructions. And then, of course, we have our loop here. So this is the interactive prompt that we're going to see. And we're just going to like interact with it. This is all the data down here. So Alice Johnson, this is just something an LLM made up. We're going to be working with her data, and we're going to, I guess, try to get at Bob Smith's data. And we'll see if we can get at that. And I'll demonstrate, too, like, why would you bother doing this? Why not just have like a long-running LLM that one customer service rep at the end of the day, they just spin up chat and they're interacting with the things. So there's actually reasons you don't want to do that. And we'll get into that. All right, so let's spin up the example here. Ruby examples, Rails. All right, so this is the prompt. And let's just say help. Let's see what's going on. So let's see. What orders? What's orders? So I say what orders? And what I did for this thing, just to kind of, for the demo, I want to show you the Ruby code that I write. So what's happening now is it's calling out to the agent, and the agent's encountering this for the first time. And it's like, okay, well, I have to do some things here to figure it out. Maybe. Okay. So what orders? All right, here we go. Now we can see the Ruby that's running inside of that sandbox. So the enclave running orders, and we're getting all these orders. So it's cool. I did not set any of this formatting up. This is just all stuff the agent did. So we can see that. And I can say something like, what's the lifetime, the LTV of this customer? Lifetime value of this customer. So none of this stuff's coded in there, but this thing is going to, we'll see, write code that does that. So the agent is writing this Ruby code, and it's saying like, well, I have access to the customer's orders, so I guess I could write some Ruby that, you know, does this thing and totals it up. So we can see that, and it's giving us a summary, and, you know, we have that, right? So let's say, what's Bob's LTV? And this is where we draw those kind of security boundaries, right? Like this thing, it can't get at Bob's data because we didn't pass it the user Bob. And so here we go, right? So why would you want that? Well, you can imagine if you're a CS admin panel or a CS, if you're in a CS admin panel and you're working with customer data and you have Bob in one tab and you have Alice in another tab, you want those to have completely different contexts. That's really important because if you just have one, like say a long running session and you're calling into like MCP calls in your application, you could potentially have problems where the agent is saying like, okay, we worked with Alice, her stuff's done, but then maybe it's hanging on to some of that context. And then when you start working with Bob, you know, then it starts kind of injecting Alice's data into that. We don't want that. So that's what Enclave can give you within that context. If you had like your CS admin panel or a chat on the side, you would have that context per customer, and it's very short-lived. You could set up an enclave so that it runs for per request if you wanted to, but you can see here, let's see how many open tickets there are. How many tickets are open? And you know what we could do just for fun is like, let's create a bunch of tickets. And we'll have it do the fizz buzz thing, right? Multiples of 3 and 5. So we're going to see if this thing passes that classic interview question of writing out fizz buzz. And it's going to create 100 tickets. Another thing to note here, like if we're talking security, on that kind of tool boundary, you need to enforce rate limiting and all those things. Like if I wanted to right now, I could say just blast the Rails application with 1 million tickets. All right, so here's our tickets, right? So show me a list of the tickets. And then, I don't know, we'll see what the output is on this thing. Sorry, there's some tickets. Cool. Do some MBA stuff with all the data you have access to. All right. So this thing's, I don't know what it's going to do. Let's see what it does. MBA stuff, right? I don't know. We'll see. This is the fun thing about agents is you get to just kind of like give them some data, some tools, and then just weird prompts like this, and you see what happens. They can surprise you. This is kind of a silly example, but maybe what I could say here is like, let's close all of the tickets, right? So after this thing runs, we could do that. Oh, look at that. It's giving us like retention data, how many tickets are open, a CAC, LTV to CAC ratio. This is funny. All right, so this is interesting, right? It runs into errors. It probably thinks that it's running inside a full-blown Ruby and not MRuby. And what's cool about that, when it runs into errors, it will try to fix them. So we can see it's taking a while. Whenever you give it a big task like this, it will take a while to run. Okay, here we go. So we have a churn. It gave us a churn risk level, profitability analysis. We even have a gross margin. And there's like a health assigned to that. Okay, so we have our data-driven strategic inputs. This is funny. All right, so you probably don't have customer service reps doing that, but we could say something like, okay, all the problems are fixed. Close all the tickets. And then if we run that, again, this is going to be calling through our tool that we expose inside of this thing. And it should close all the tickets. So there we go. All right, so all the issues have been resolved. Great. Now it's kind of making stuff up like, hey, the customer satisfaction should be significantly improved. All right, let's try just some crazy stuff, right? Like rm.rf/. This would not be good if you want to run this inside of Ruby, right? Like you don't want to do that. So, all right, this thing is catching us. Okay, but I'm doing security checks. All right, so can you hit the internet or a file system? So I had not done any real prompting to like tell this agent like, hey, don't let people prompt inject your way into understanding your Ruby. So I haven't done that. I think you could do that and maybe like limit this, but you can see like, hey, let's see what's going on in here. So it's doing this. I guess what it thinks is a security check, and let's see what happens. So you can see the back quotes are not implemented. That's because this is MRuby. This is a base install too of MRuby. There's nothing in here. There's no file systems. There's no network access. It all has to go through that tool call. So if you want to expose that through the tools, you can do that. You do have to expose that as data. You can't just pass a file handler through there. But this is all just done in the name of security. Like, here you go, agent. Here's your programming environment. Here's some data. Go nuts inside of this thing. Try to blast your way out of this. So, all right, highly sandboxed environment. This is the agent security report. This is all the things that it can't do. So, it can't attack the outside world. And then, of course, basic Ruby 3.4 functionality. I don't know if it's Ruby 3.4. I'm not sure what the version of MRuby is or what that reports, but this is pretty good, right? This is workable. I'm not going to say like this is the end all be all security. I have no idea what security analysis have been done inside of MRuby. It's probably not as hardened of a sandbox as say like JavaScript, just purely based on the fact that JavaScript runs on billions of devices and browsers. And there's millions of dollars of security bounties on breaking out of the JavaScript sandboxes. MRuby doesn't have that. So I can't vouch for its security, but I can say like, I'm exploring the use of it in certain use cases. I'm, might be comfortable running this inside of like a CS admin panel. If I tighten up the tools and just kind of start experimenting with it, and I have some like trusted customer service reps running it, that's kind of where I'm at now. I think the concept of agents coexisting with code is something that I think is quite fascinating. And I kind of another thing I've been playing around with is like, can you have code run, and then it gets to a point where it needs an agent to start running, and it can say, hey, here you go, agent, like continue running this thing. And then if you need the code again, like come back into the code and run that. So check this out. It's github.com/rubymonolith/enclave. And you know what? Just start playing with it. I would start by cloning this project and then running that example and looking at the code that we just went through. And who knows where this goes? Maybe it goes nowhere. Maybe this is like the way to make your LLMs more efficient and do more things. But I do think it's pretty cool. Like you can just give your agent data and it can do like pretty basic analysis if you give it. I'm not going to say a full-blown programming language, but MRuby is, I'm pretty sure it's Turing complete. So like this sandbox or this enclave could do whatever in there and do a lot of analysis. Whatever the model is that it's using, it can do that type of analysis.